Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for being here as always. And today we're going to talk about Phasma. A week and a half later than I wanted to talk about Phasma, but we are going to talk about Phasma, the spoilery discussion. So as the title says, as my voice says, as the screen says, we're talking spoilers about Phasma. And please go out and experience this book before you watch this video. Either in audible form, or in print form, or in Kindle form, or however you choose to enjoy this fiction, please, I cannot recommend this book enough. Go and get it. Now, with all that being said, let's jump right into the discussion. Now, first thing that I absolutely loved about this book was that layered storytelling where you have those first few chapters are just about V being taken aboard the Absolution, who's also the sister ship of the Finalizer, as a prisoner, and then being interrogated off the books by another high-ranking stormtrooper in Cardinal, and then she starts telling him all the information that she has on Phasma, and then we end up jumping back and forth in between V being interrogated by Cardinal and their story, and then the story that V is telling inside of that story to Cardinal about Phasma. And I love that kind of layered storytelling. As memey as it is, the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise really, at least for 15-year-old me or 14-year-old me, 14-year-old me, when I went to go see Revenge of the Sith, that scene in the Opera House made the Star Wars universe much more alive. It means that they have a lore inside of this lore. Star Wars is lore, and the people in Star Wars have their own lore. So whenever somebody is telling somebody a story about something else that happened, it always blows the universe into something way bigger than just a story. It is now an entire universe to me, and I love that kind of tiered, layered storytelling. Now, after we're introduced to Cardinal and Vi, I'm not sure I actually read this book. I don't know how to pronounce anything. We end up jumping into the story of Phasma on her home planet of Parnassus. Whew. Oh, it's so good. It is so good. Let's face it, a large part of the fandom was not happy with Phasma after The Force Awakens. I was about to say Revenge of the Sith. Why? A lot of people weren't happy with Phasma after The Force Awakens. And I get that. I mean, she didn't do anything really except for immediately cower to a subordinate traitorous stormtrooper and an old smuggler guy and a Wookiee. And she's supposed to be this big, awesome, crazy, powerful, amazing fighter character. Where did that go? And Delilah Dawson's solution is so simple that I immediately, after getting done with this book, I immediately went, duh! That is the best and easiest and most simple solution there possibly is. Phasma doesn't care about the First Order. She is willing to do anything to survive, and that's because of her upbringing on this planet of Parnassus. Throughout this book, we are hit over the head over and over and over again that Phasma grew up in a society on a planet that is literally Mad Max. Add some water and a little bit more infrastructure, and that's about it. And you got Mad Max on Parnassus. It's awesome. Phasma is from a planet where she was literally a hunter-gatherer. She was a caveman. And so, of course, you grow up on a planet like that, you're going to have a crazy good survival instinct and a very, very powerful survival instinct. So, of course, she's going to do whatever she needs to do to stay alive. And that includes telling the First Order to, I don't care about your crazy super weapon. I'm out of here. I know I'm beat. I know that I can't win. Screw it. And that's exactly what she did. And it makes perfect sense. It's so good. I can't. Again, it's such a simple solution to such a crazy complex problem that I had no idea how this was going to work. And I had no idea how Dwight Dawson was going to take care of this massive issue within The Force Awakens. And she did perfectly. Now, as we're hearing this tale told by V about how Phasma came into the service of the First Order, we're learning a lot about Brendol Hux. It turns out Brendol Hux crash landed on Phasma's planet, and then Phasma kind of just slowly went, oh, well, you know what? I've got a better chance of surviving with this guy, so, oh well, sorry everybody that I've grown to care and love about, or rather I didn't really, I just stuck with them because, well, it was my best chance for survival, so see ya. And we go through this Mad Maxy world where you've got little different settlements and factions that are good at doing one good thing very, very well, and they're always raiding each other for each other's clothing or armament or medical supplies or anything like that. And they're always having to fight off these crazy dog creature things and these creepy beetles that just, they literally turn your insides into liquid and you basically just turn into a water balloon and pop and it, So the whole portion of Phasma in this book is pretty much exclusively focused on Phasma and some of her tribe mates, essentially, escorting Brendol Hux and a couple of the other survivors from his crashed ship back to his crashed ship. And they go through and slowly Phasma's fellow tribes mates realize that, oh, Phasma doesn't care about us. And then at the very end, once they finally get to the ship and they call for help, Phasma just immediately mows down all of the people that she's betrayed that were chasing after them. And she leaves the few people that are still loyal to her, there to die on the planet. And I wouldn't say Phasma is even really a complex character or a three-dimensional character. She is just a really, really cool character. She is a little bit two-dimensional. She is a little bit simple. She has one overriding personality type, survivor. That is what she does. And she does it very, very, very well. She has no issue murdering her entire family in order to go and work with some other faction. And then 10 years later, she has no problem murdering all of those people in order to go off with the First Order. And it's so good. Now, my complaints for this book are very minor and nitpicky. Even I can see that. One is that, yeah, Phasma's kind of a two-dimensional character. She is a really awesome, crazy good warrior who has absolutely zero morals, zero ethics, and zero loyalty except towards herself and her own survival and well-being. That's it. That is who she is as a character. Now, my second issue is kind of the pacing. Like I was saying earlier about how I love that tiered, layered storytelling, sometimes the pacing does get a little bit off. And in part, that's because Phasma, by like halfway through Phasma's story on Parnassus, I already kind of knew who she was, what her motivations were. It just kind of, that whole second half, once you kind of realize who she is, at least for me, it was just additional reinforcement that she is a sociopathic survivor. So I would have rather spent more time with a much more complex character in Cardinal, who I really hope we get more of him. I desperately need more of him, or even more of V. We didn't get enough of her to really build her up. We got a lot more Cardinal than we did of V. at least in terms of personal inner dialogue, but she was still a really fun character. She's kind of like a good version of Bazine Natal now that I think about it. I mean, she's kind of the smuggler Han Solo type, but she's more of a spy for hire than a smuggler or a bounty hunter. And she's a really fun character, and I would love to get like a one-shot comic or something of her. So those are my two really kind of nitpicky complaints about this book. But inside of those complaints, you can see that I really loved the other supporting characters in this. Civ down on Parnassus, one of the primary viewpoint that we get from that story on Parnassus, and V, who is telling the story to Cardinal, and Cardinal is a really cool character, a really deep character, despite the fact that he doesn't get nearly as much page time as Civ or Phasma. It's so good. Now, real quick, I'm just going to go down a really quick list of things that I just enjoyed. Things that made me go, ha, cool, while I was reading this book. Number one is the Absolution, and the fact that it's the sister ship to the Finalizer. Number one, the name is awesome. Whoever is naming the actual ships in this new canon is knocking it out of the park. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know whether or not there's some sort of weird, crazy algorithm-y name scheme thing that the story group's got, or whether or not it's just the authors are saying, yeah, I want to name this, and then the story group signs off on it, or whatever it is. Either way, the Absolution is a perfect name for a Resurgent class Star Destroyer. And I'm really liking the concept of sister ships. I'm a big Space Navy guy. I love Battlestar Galactica and Space Battleship Yamato and Stargate Atlantis, especially because of all the space fights that we got in there, the later seasons of SG-1. I love space battle-y stuff. And we got a lot of fleet personality in Legends, but we haven't really seen too much of it in canon. And it seems like that's starting to come back a little bit. With The Last Jedi having multiple different capital ships that are named, and their names kind of can, like the Radis, can tie back towards other stuff, which is really cool. And we're also getting, like I said, sister ships, and these are kind of seen as the vanguards of the fleet. They're the public PR capital ships or whatever that the citizens of the First Order really grab onto. And I just like seeing those I like getting personality in the fleets. Second really fun part has got to be the fact that Phasma's armor is literally made out of a Nubian transport, kind of like what we got in episode 1 and episode 2. And it's so awesome to have that connection that, you know, this was Palpatine's personal shuttle and that's what she made it out of. That's so freaking cool to me. Some people might think that makes the universe too small or that it's a little bit too heavy-handed, but I love it personally. Third and final smaller thing that I loved was the Colosseum scene in between Phasma breaking them out of the Colosseum, and it felt so like 300-y. Like I could easily see this book being a like 5-episode miniseries, and all the Parnassus stuff at least being shot with the color palette and the cinematography of 300. It was just so awesome. I loved it so much. That whole scene was just perfect. But I think that's about all I've got to say about Phasma, but I want to know what you guys think. I make these videos so that then I can have these conversations with you guys. So leave a comment down below. We'll have a discussion down there. If you haven't already, hit like on this video. If you enjoyed it, it lets me know that I'm doing something at least kind of entertaining. And if you're not already, hit that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter and Twitch, which we've got linked down in the description below. Thank you guys as always, and may the Force be with you.